Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Thursday, and all of our guests today, including Ray, standing by in Denver. Brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Giants announcing they will hold a chuck-a-puck during the second intermission of tomorrow's game against Tri-City. Proceeds helping those impacted by the wildfires in L.A. Head to VancouverGiants.com to get single-game tickets for tomorrow's game and Sunday's game, 2 p.m. against Ray's old team, one of his old teams, the Brandon Wheat Kings. Ray Ferraro joins us now from NHL on ESPN, Canucks analyst on Sportsnet. Edmonton at Colorado. That's the game that Ray is getting ready to work. Ray, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I gotta start with this, Donnie, and I know you guys would have thought the same thing, but I woke up today and I opened up media and saw that Bob Uecker had passed away. Oh, yeah. And was there anybody as easy funny as Bob Uecker? And Donnie, I'm gonna throw some air in your tires here, but when you were doing your thing and Darren Detition was doing his thing in Edmonton, when he was just getting started, the commonality of you three is that the show wasn't about you, it was about a love of sport. And when Bob Uecker did his stuff, it was about a love of baseball, and everything that came out of it was just so enjoyable to watch. I don't know if you guys have been watching clips today, but
yes,
my God, man, it's like anything that could have been brought up, he found the fun way to look at it. And it just got me thinking when you were coming on here, and I just thought, like, Dutchie, we'd watch Dutchie first and then you.
Yep.
And it was just like a love of sport and something fun in it. And the sports world lost a good one today. Man, what a career and life Bob Uecker had.
Yeah, and we're going to run a clip with Johnny Carson later on, which is where Bob made his name on Johnny Carson more so than he did in baseball, Ray.
Right. Yeah. He was 100-time guest. He was on there 100 times.
Yeah, and people will see why. If you're not familiar with him, you'll see why in a bit here. Hey, Ray, Connor McDavid, I know you're doing Edmonton, Colorado, but last night in Minnesota, he passes Yari Curry on the Oilers' all-time points list behind you-know-who. Didn't Connor McDavid just get drafted yesterday, Ray?
Yeah, just think under 700 games, right?
Yeah.
And he's well over 1,000 points, and the production is incredible. The year-to-year range is remarkable. Like, to be that special and that consistently special is remarkable. I know we fire around generational player, but generational player means the rarest of the rare, and McDavid is. I mean, he's just. I hope Edmonton's got something in the tank tonight. They came in from Minnesota last night. They got here, I don't know, 2:00 or whatever. But to watch McKinnon and McDavid on the ice together is unbelievable. And then you get the next layer, which is Draisaitl and Rantanen. And you're like, 4 of the 5 top scorers in the game are in tonight. The only one is Kucherov in Tampa. But, man, special player.
Ray, the Canucks going to be into Toronto, beat the Leafs. They get Hronek back, and then they lay an egg in Winnipeg. Where's your concern level? And they're, by the way, they're not in the playoff spot, Ray. Where's your concern level with this team right now?
Well, I guess concern would be that what do you expect to come out of the gates every night? Yeah. And I'm sure if they had an answer, they'd fix it. But it's really remarkable, the swings. It's one thing if you lose kind of the same way all the time or the same style all the time, but they've played some really great hockey and some really lousy hockey and not much in the middle.
Yeah.
And so what that means is when you don't, and lots of nights you don't have an A game, like you go there. I used to talk to my legs in warm up. I'm like, come on, legs, like I need you now. And sometimes they just don't show up. So you've got to find a way to have a B game. And it seems like they have an A game and a D game and nothing in the middle. The game in Edmonton, I mean, in Winnipeg, Lankinen turns over a puck. I mean, hey, it happens. That's the way it goes. But you've got to, at that point, if you're a good team, be able to say, okay, we've had a decent start. They had a decent start. And then 35 seconds, it's 3-0. The game's over. And so you can go around the league, and there's enough teams that do that they just can't stop it once it starts. And that's really been that's been a problem for them. I mean, we can look at 53 different players. The top end of the roster is going to have to be way, 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 way better. And if it's not, then you got problems, right? Like that's why those guys get paid like they do. That's why they play like they do. That's why teams are so desperate to find them. And when you have them, if they don't have a good year or a bad stretch, you're sunk. I mean, your role players are role players for a reason.
Ray, tonight's the first Canucks-Kings meeting since Tanner Jeannot hit Besser. He got suspended. Besser missed 7 games with a concussion. Lots of talk in Vancouver about retribution. What are your thoughts on that tonight?
I think that's gone 25 years ago. When Gino Ojic was here, there would have been retribution.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was a different sport. It was a different game. I'm sure both teams have been told. Well, certainly, I would suspect they have been, that, hey, we're watching the game tonight. I guess you'd have to look like who would be dealing the retribution out. Right? Like that, and that's the same around the league. Like, how many teams have that sort of player anymore?
Yep.
It was a garbage hit, and 3 games was probably the minimum you should get for it, and he got whacked for it. And sometimes I don't understand the disciplinary stuff. Like, I thought McDavid should have got fined last night for elbowing Johansson. Yeah, for flicking his elbow out. He knocked him out of the game. So, like, I didn't think it was a suspension. I could see why the refs didn't see it, right? The way where they were standing and how quick, and they would have been shielded. But that's what you have supplemental discipline for. And so I thought Jeannot should have got it. Like, I thought it was bad enough, that one, because it had nothing to do with anything. Like, it wasn't an accidental hit. And I thought he should have got 5. But say he would have got 5. That doesn't get your Besser back. And that'll always be a point of contention between suspension length and player's injury. I mean, I don't know that there's a perfect way to do that.
Ray, it's one thing to look at a player's numbers or look at the scoring leaders in the National Hockey League. It's another thing to see a player who's, let's say, top 5, top 10, and you see him play against the team you follow closely. And that was the case with Kyle Connor in the game against Winnipeg the other day. He is just so good. Gets the hat trick. What makes him so special?
Well, first off, I think he's an exceptional skater. Like he has got explosive breakaway first 2 steps. And if you're in a little bit of a race, he's probably the wrong guy to race, because he gets to high speed really, really quickly. Great shot, really good passer, has grown into a competitive guy. I think, like a lot of kids that come out, they think they're competing. Well, they are. They're competing at the highest level they know how to compete at, and then they learn how to compete better. And so I'll use Lecker-Mackey as an example. So, like, 2 years ago, remember, he was not doing very well in the Swedish Elite League.
Yep. And
then he learned through that year, works a lot with Michael Samuelsson, and learned to compete. So when you compete, you get to use all this other skill that you have. And that's what Connor, I think, has grown into. Like, they use him all over the place. They use him in any situation, and he's a underrated star for sure. Like, Winnipeg, when they put him out there, they're dangerous. He's a one-shot scorer. He does not need 6 chances to score, where a lot of guys need more volume, right? He doesn't.
One more, Ray. We're doing a lot with the name Connor here, but Connor Bedard, 100 points a career. He recently reaches that milestone. he looks so down these days, Ray. And the losing goes back to the days in Regina. What would you say to him if he came and asked you for advice?
I tell him to maybe take a half a breath and change your expectation. Expectation leads to disappointment. He's expecting to compete at the highest level, and their team is no good. Mm-hmm. And so how is that even possible? Like, he could be the greatest player ever, or he could be a 19-year-old learning the league like he is, and you got very little help. And so they're, in my mind, what they need to do in Chicago, look, the cap's going up. They've got a bunch of young prospects. I'm looking for the highest ceiling offensive player that's a free agent. Now, if Mikko Rantanen ever got there or Mitch Marner ever got there, I'd offer them 20% of the cap. And I would say, come to Chicago and tell me who you want the other winger to be on your line. And I'll do my best to go get him. Like, you're not in danger of losing Bedard because he's a incredibly competitive kid. He really is. But what you're in danger of is all you learn is to lose. And pretty soon the habits that you have in junior become the habits you have in the NHL, and they don't work. They don't work for anybody. They didn't work for Connor McDavid. He had to grow his game. And Bedard's going to have to continually grow his game. He's going to have to learn when he doesn't have the puck, how does he get it back? That's the NHL problem, to utilize the skill that you have. Because he could do it well enough in junior, clearly. Well, now he's got to learn it here. But if he does get it back and he passes it to somebody, then what? Yeah. Like, this is why when you hear teams say, I don't want to rebuild, the Blackhawks are a great illustration. The Sabres are a great illustration. The Red Wings are a great illustration of why you don't want to. It takes forever. It really does. And they're really just in the starting phases. Like, the Hawks are, what are they away from being a playoff team? 5 years?
Yep.
Like, it's a long way, right? It's a lot of losing.
I've always said that. Stay away from the rebuild.
Well, the problem is, okay, so Donnie, let's quickly, the rebuild. So you decide, say you decide today, you spend the rest of this year and probably half of next year getting rid of the players to start the rebuild. So now you've acquired a lot of draft picks, or you've acquired some draft picks. Most of them start in the 2026 draft.
Yeah.
Those 2026 players don't become pros till 2028 at the earliest. At 2028, they probably need another 2 years to 3 to be legit NHL contributors. That's 2031. You're a season ticket holder. I tell you, Donnie, you're going to really hate the next 6 years, but you're going to love it. If everything goes right, you're going to love it in 2031. Are you not going to say to me, yeah, good, call me back in 5 years?
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? Like, that's the whole problem with the rebuild. There's no way to shortcut it.
Okay, we'll move on from that subject because you're making me look bad here. Hey, Ray, one more. You're of Italian heritage. We've been talking about this today. Your opinion of stuffed crust pizza?
Oh, it's not even a thing.
Thank you.
It's an embarrassment. Stuffed crust pizza, that's like you got extra junk left over and you jammed it in the crust. It's terrible. Outrageous.
Hard thumbs down.
Who thinks
Henderson likes it? Henderson likes it.
Big fan.
Yeah, you know what Henderson's two favorite things in the kitchen are?
What?
A knife and a fork.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
We're way over, but it's so much fun. Thanks so much, Ray. Have a good call today.
Hi, Ryan. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.